This presentation is about which values matter. Anytime I present to people about the importance of moral values, the question always comes up, which values? Who decides? So this is an important topic in this modern age, which values matter? So what are values? To start this discussion, we have to understand that values are guiding principles. They're ideals and goals and expected behaviors. However, personal values and moral values are different. Personal values advance our own objective, for example, such as my career path or my individual likes or dislike in music or in film. However, moral values have a broader scope because they affect others and the natural environment. They are necessary to advance the public good, such as justice, respect, empathy, altruism. While immoral values, we understand, also have significant impact on the public, such as corruption and injustice. These undermine the public good. So there's a fundamental difference between your personal values, your personal likes and dislikes, and moral values that affect all of us. This distinction can also be understood as the difference between personality and character. Personality is unique to each person, while character is underpinned by moral values such as integrity, justice, self-discipline. And in some way, we recognize that these are common values that underpin a good character. However, I do recognize, and everyone recognizes, that listing and justifying particular list of values and abilities as moral is a very complex exercise for many reasons. I'll only touch on a few here today. First, when formulating moral frameworks, we are confronted with the pluralistic nature of society. In other words, we're made up of many types of people, faith, ideas, religions, and so on. So making such formulation of shared universal values is very challenging. Second, moral judgments can be very subjective. We all recognize that. And third, describing moral values leads to the recognition that multiple moral concerns can fall within the same moral domain. For example, two opposing positions, you get two people together, and they'll draw on the same moral value of justice to defend their views. And fourth, some moral values are shared across cultures, while others vary between social and cultural context. However, if moral relativism is pushed to its logical limits, we have to conclude that all moral values are subjective and non-rational. So fearing indoctrination of a particular worldview, we may decide that it's easier to stay away from defining moral values that apply to all of us. However, there's a problem with that, and that is that permissiveness is not the answer either, because it holds no genuine moral authority. And intractable value conflicts can occur in the absence of shared values. Because we have some shared values in society, we can resolve conflicts, we can resolve issues. Without these, it becomes very difficult. So hence the choice is moral relativism versus shared values. This is one of the fundamental reasons behind the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. So we can't avoid moral judgments. Standards of right and wrong and behaviors that determine the outcome of our lives are very real. In a civilized and open society, the majority of people abide by social contract, and this underpins security and mutual prosperity. So our prosperity is underpinned by the values that we've agreed on in society, how we drive, how we treat each other, financially, that we believe in honesty and respect and so on. As a human race, we have made value judgments as to what is better. Justice and human rights are better than injustice. Altruism is better than selfishness. And honesty is better than dishonesty. And finally, empathy is better than callousness. Shared values are critical to the existence of our society. They allow people to understand each other, stabilize human interactions, and values-driven behaviors increase trust. So we come to trust each other if we have shared values. Any analysis of moral development must go beyond the description of account of what is and cannot, and we cannot avoid evaluative questions to understand what contributes to positive morality. In other words, we can't avoid these questions. Additionally, it's interesting that honesty, fairness, respect, integrity, and the like are values that are shared across cultures. In fact, evolutionary science and research in human behavior has yielded consensus that fairness, empathy, and altruism are part of the biological makeup of our species. So for those of you who've watched these videos, you understand that I'm going through the 12 pillars moral framework, or the 12 pillars framework for personal and social development. So I'd like to introduce now the framework, the moral framework of values, moral values that underpin that. Integrity and honesty and trustworthiness, authenticity and accountability underpin moral reasoning. Think about it, our moral reasoning. Moral reasoning means that we seek truth, that we seek to be honest, trustworthy, authentic, to be real with ourselves and with others. These values underpin our self-awareness and the search for truth and meaning in our lives. Empathy and conscientiousness, that means being driven by conscience, underpins the moral emotion. So for example, I found that my students felt guilty when they did something on social media that hurt another person. Feeling guilty or conscientious is a fundamental and moral emotion, and from that we can learn. Self-control and responsibility, on the other hand, underpin our moral self-management. Without self-control, responsibility, we have difficulties in controlling ourselves. While behaving morally towards others refers to the values of altruism, justice, and respect. These underpin love and connection to others. Once again, thank you for listening, and please subscribe to my channel. I would be very grateful.